Severely overhyped. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are under 13, scram, get out of here. All right, tonight we're talking about Little Women. As you know, if you are subscribed or a follower and you know my videos, I adore Little Women. The 94 version, in my opinion, is absolute perfection. And when I heard that Greta Gerwig was taking on a more modern take of Little Women, I was hesitant. I was very nervous. I did see Lady Bird. I did enjoy that film. However, it's Little Women. You kind of don't want to mess with the formula. Now, I went in with an open mind. I rewatched the 94 version in preparation because I hadn't seen it in a while. I wanted to refresh my brain. So I did that. I saw it tonight. Let's talk about it. And I will tell you that this is the first review I've ever done with notes. Okay, I have notes because I didn't want to forget anything. All right, before we get into the review, if you are not subscribed, please consider hitting that red button down below. Like, comment, help me out with the YouTube algorithm. All right, so let's start with the pros because every film has a pro, and then we'll get to the cons. All right, I'm going to try to go through these fairly quickly because I do have numerous things to talk about. So the pros, this film is absolutely beautiful to look at. The costumes, the cinematography, the production design, these are all categories that Little Women should be nominated for Oscars. It should definitely win for costume design. If it doesn't, there is no justice. These colors were gorgeous. The film actually leapt off of the screen. Absolutely phenomenal to look at. Also positives were the casting of Saoirse Ronan, Florence Pugh, and Meryl Streep. They were my three favorite casting choices. I do have a couple of cons, which I will talk about. Another positive that I loved was the relationship more deeply explored between Mr. Lawrence and Beth. Now, in the 94 version, we did touch upon it, but we didn't get into much of it because, you know, spoiler alert, I'm sure everyone has seen Little Women by now, has either read it or seen another version. Spoiler alert again, Beth gets sick and she passes away. And this is also something that happened to Mr. Lawrence's daughter, and he bonded with Beth, and it was just nice to expand on that relationship. I really, really enjoyed it. Now let's get to the cons. Okay. My number one con about this film, I get that Little Women is all about female empowerment, that we want women to have choices. We want them to have options. They can do anything. However, in this current version, it is too much in our faces, I believe. Whereas the 94 version, it was said maybe once, maybe twice, but everything that they did was very subtle. It wasn't in your face. It was just a given with the way that the film was done. Whereas with this current version, I feel it was like, again, and again, and again. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about. It was just, it got to be way too much for me. It's like, I get it. I understand it. You want women to do what they want to do. I get it, Greta Gerwig. Okay? Like, I understand. Again, flashbacks? No, 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 no. Bad choice. This film is told through flashbacks and sequences are out of order. This does not work at all, especially if you are making this for a newer audience. I will bet $1,000 that new and upcoming girls, boys have not seen Little Women before. They have not read the book. They have no prior knowledge. And so therefore, these younger audience members that you are making this film for are going to have no idea what's happening in the film because they have no knowledge of the history of the film / the book. And so therefore, the flashbacks is going to be super confusing. It was confusing for me. And I have loved this story since I was a girl, and I'm in love with the 94 version, so it just did not work. All right. Developing relationships. I had a problem with two of them in particular. Number one is Joe and Friedrich. Friedrich is the man that she meets in New York, and he criticizes her writing, so they kind of have a falling out, and then he comes to see her. But in this film, in the current version, it's all jumbled out of sequence, and the fight happens in the beginning of the film, which is stupid because it should happen towards the end of the film. I just did not like this jumping around stuff. But there was no relationship building between them. Perfect example, in the 94 version, Winona Ryder, who plays Jo, and Friedrich, Gabriel Byrne, he takes her to the opera. They have conversations. You can see a romance blossoming between the two of them. In the current version, you don't see that at all. Yeah, they're kind of making eyes at each other, but then they have the falling out with the fight, and then you don't see him until the very end of the movie, and you're supposed to believe that Jo is in love with him? No, that doesn't work. And then the other relationship I had a problem with was Amy and Laurie. Because, towards the end, they end up together and get married. But you didn't see that love that Amy has for Laurie all these years in the current version. In the 94 version, when Amy is played by Kirsten Dunst, you see the stars in her eyes. You can tell she loves Laurie and she wants to be around him all the time. I got a little bit of that in this movie with Florence Pugh, but I didn't get the I'm so in love with him. I didn't get that at all. So I didn't believe the romance between the two of them. You get what I'm saying, right? I didn't believe it. There was no building of these relationships. This one is a hard one. All right, Beth's death. In the 94 version, it's Claire Danes and Winona Ryder, the two sisters. They're having their sister moment, and, Beth is talking, and she knows she's about to go any minute. She's saying everything she wants to say to her sister. And every time I see that scene, it affects me. I start crying. And I did a couple days ago when I saw the film. The tears just start rolling. I can't help it. So intense and impactful, just so meaningful. But in this film, there was no moment like that. I kind of felt that it was glossed over. And I know that's a harsh way to put it, but that's the way I felt. I just didn't feel that Beth's death was important. And it is important because that's one of the sisters gone. And they're supposed to have such a bond, which I didn't really believe either, but we'll get to that in a second. All right. Miscasting. Let's talk about miscast. Laura Dern. I did not like her as Marmee because I'm comparing her to Susan Sarandon. And in my mind, Susan Sarandon as Marmee in the 94 version is so superb and way more phenomenal than Laura Dern. Laura Dern, to me, came in and out saying lines, but nothing that she said was ever impactful to me. And she felt like a really older sister, like the extra sister that we didn't know about. And then Timothée Chalamet, did not care for him. I thought he was completely miscast because he looked like a boy in junior high. And I know that the ages they're teenagers and they're going into college years. I get that. But he looked like junior high the entire time. And for Laurie, for his story to go through, that's why the casting of Christian Bale in the 94 version was actually brilliant, because he looked like a teenager, high school, college age. But then later on, he looked more like a man. They made him look more like he was believable as being older. No, Timothée Chalamet looked the same exact age. Like, I was like, it's a junior high person asking for a hand in marriage. Like, it literally made no sense. I was laughing. I was really laughing. And then Florence Pugh, she had the task of playing Amy the entire film, because in 94, it's Kirsten Dunst half the time, and then Samantha Mathis, I think, the other half of the time. Whereas Florence Pugh was Amy the entire time at ages 13 and 20. My one criticism is that to tell the difference between the ages, I wanted Florence Pugh to be brattier at 13, at that weird age where, you feel like you don't belong at 13, and everything is traumatic and dramatic. And I didn't feel that, especially when it came to, Burning Joe's story and stuff. I just wanted her to be a little bratty sister, and I never got that satisfaction. And I wanted it to be like that so much. I feel like I'm supposed to talk about something else and I'm forgetting. Overall, it's a beautiful film to look at. I do have my criticisms, and you can hate me if you want, but overall, I have to say, I didn't like this movie. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I didn't believe the sisterly bond between the four girls. And I didn't even talk about Emma Watson because, in my opinion, she's forgettable as Meg. She really made no impact. But I didn't believe the bond between the four girls like they're supposed to be sisters. In the 94 version, I felt the love, the family, the relationship, the camaraderie. And in this film, I felt like these are four girls that were hired to do this job, to make a movie, to make it as believable as possible. I would compare it to a stage play. I really, really would. It just didn't have the heart, and it didn't have the coziness and you know what I'm talking about. When you compare these two films, you can totally see the difference. And I understand where Greta Gerwig was going. I know she took on this is a heck of a challenge to take on Little Women. It's been done again and again and again. It's a classic. She rewrote it and wanted to make it a little bit different. And she took a chance by, doing the flashbacks and reversing some things. And I understand it. I respect her wanting to be different. But in my opinion, Little Women, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Therefore, I hated this film. I did not enjoy it. It did not live up to the brilliancy of the 94 version. So that is my take on Little Women. Let me know down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you hate me for dogging this film out? I really hope that you don't. I hope that you subscribe to my channel. We've got a lot of fun coming up. Award season. Golden Globes are this Sunday. If you haven't checked out my predictions, they are down below in the other video. Thanks a lot, guys, for sticking with me, and I'll see you at the movies.